Hello everyone and welcome back to Server IT. In today's episode, we will learn how to configure HSRP. So this is our topology. We have three computers. One belongs to VLAN 10, 20, and 30. We have R1, which is going to be our active router, and R2, our extend byte. So through R3, we have internet access using a NAT interface. So let's see, right, our IP information. So in R1, we're using the first available IP of each subnet. In R2, we're using the second one, and we will use the third one available for the visual IP of each subnet. So let's begin going to the interface of VLAN 10, right? So, okay, so we use the command and standby, right? And first, we need to choose, right, the group number. By default is 0. And I'm gonna use the number that matches, right, my VLAN ID, which is 10. So I'm gonna use 10. This would be for VLAN 10, it would be group 10, and so on for VLAN 20 and 30. So then IP, and now I can set the visual IP. This is the third IP of the subnet for VLAN 10. Great. Now, perfect. So now I want to change the default priority. The default one is 100. So I'm gonna make it higher because the active should have a higher priority. How I made that? So standby 10, right? The group where I want to make the change, and then priority. And now I can set the value. So I'm gonna use 105. Great. Now, so let's leave it like that for now. Let's go to R2, right? And let's see, right? Let's make the same for the rest, right? In this case is the group 20 for VLAN 20, right? The third available IP for the VLAN 20 subnet is the 19. So standby 20, priority, it will be the same, 20 preempt. I will configure that later. So standby 30, IP, in this case is 35 for this subnet, standby 105. Good. So now let's go to R2, right? And let's make the same, the group and the IP. In this case, right, is the same. Standby 10, priority. So here, the default priority is 100, so I don't need to change it because I don't want it to be right, the active. So it's gonna be the standby, and with the 100 priority, that is okay. It's lower than R1. So we only need to configure the virtual IP in our second router, right? So in this case, for VLAN 20, that belongs to group 20, that was the 18, and for VLAN 30, belongs to group 30, is what 35, right? Yes, it's 35. So now it's gonna take its time to load everything. Okay, I can see there. So now to check the information, right? Show standby. Let's put brief. Okay, so here I have the interfaces that have HSRP active. So this is the group that they belongs to, right? For VLAN 10, group 10, 20, 20, and so on. The local priority of that interface, right? And the state of that local interface. So all the interfaces, right, of R1 are active as they have a higher priority, that is 105. So our active router is a local, that means R1. And here we see that the standby for VLAN 10 is this router. So this router is R2, which has the second available IP of that subnet. So let's see if, okay, perfect. Everything loaded now. So this is the visual IP in each subnet per VLAN, right? So now let's make the test. Let's see if it is working as expected. So I'm gonna make a tracer to, for example, to the Google DNS. So let's see what is the path that it's gonna take, the road. So let's wait. So we see here that it's going through 192.168.16.17. Now, who belongs that IP? As you can see, R2, which is our standby, right, has 18. And our local, right, if we go here, if we go here, we can see that that IP belongs to R1. Yeah, I could just go, right, show IP interface brief, but I just want to show you from here, right? We can see that this router is the standby one, right? And the active is identified for this IP address. So this belongs to R1, the IP of R1 for the subnet of VLAN 20. And this is because PC2 belongs to VLAN 20. So that's why it's going through it. So that means that it's working as expected. Now, why I see this IP, which belongs to the inter VLAN, right? And not the visual IP. Okay, so that makes sense. Why? How should I know that it's going through the correct router if I don't see a specific, like a distinctive identifier like this IP? So if it says .19, which of the two is going through? I wouldn't know it. So in order to know the correct path, right, the exact path that is taking, that's why it's using the inter VLAN IP, and it's supposed to do that. So that means that our inter VLAN, right, HSRP by inter VLAN is working as perfect. So now let's configure HSRP and decide. Here we don't have any VLAN, right? So let's configure it. So let's start with R1. Okay, so let's go to gigabit 00. Here we don't have any inter VLAN set up, just our normal, right, IP assigned. So let's use a standby. I'm gonna use group 1. And we are going to use, in this case, the .5, right? The .5. So R1 has .1, R2 .2, and R3 .3. So I'm gonna use 5 for then. Oops, right? IP. So as I want that R1 is the right, the active when a packet is coming in. Okay, let's see something. Okay, so here is taking this path. Okay, let's make the following. If I pin, right, for example, the IP address of PC2, right? Let's see the following, PC2. We can see here. Let's make a tracer. As you can see, it's going through this way. So this belongs to R1. So this one belongs to R2. So now for coming in, I want that the packets comes in via R2. That will be this IP. Okay, so let's make R2 our active one for coming in traffic. Okay, so I will not modify in this situation the priority. I'm gonna leave it by default by the group. So let's go to R2. Okay, standby 1 IP, right, 5. Now, oh, right. What a crazy man. That's not the right. So now okay. So now let's change the priority, right? In this case, and standby 1 to be the preempt. So in that case, okay, this is something that I didn't configure before, right? In R1 and R2 for VLAN, and I was about to forget it. So let's configure it then. So what happened with preempts? So let's say, let's make the following. I'm gonna shut, right, suspend this interface. Okay, it's going down. Let's try to pin again, right? Okay, destination host unreachable. Let's back again. Yeah, so I can see now that is going through, right? R2. Now what happened if R1 comes back online? Let's enable that interface, right? We can see that it was going through R2. Let's stop this and let's wait for R1 to come up. Okay, so right now R1 is coming up. Then he will realize that R2 is the new, right? The new preempt. Okay, so let's see. To show, standby, brief. Okay, so that is loading yet. Okay, so as we can see here, our primary show standby brief, right? Right now, our primary router is R2. R2 is the main router, as we can see here. So now we're going to use the command preempt to better understand the situation. So with the preempt, once a primary, right, was down and came back online or back up, if preempt is configured, it's gonna take over again as the active. So this is supposed to be configured only on the active router, right? The router with the highest priority. So if I wanted every time that anything happens, right, to my R1, and then when he's back to take ownership again or take over as active, I only need to configure preempt. So that would be a standby, the group, and preempt. So that is the only thing that I need to do. Let's configure. Oh, we can see there, right? That is taking it over, right? So now the show standby brief. We can see now that our R1 is taking back, right, as active, and in this case R2 is going back as the standby. So that's why we use preempt. It's supposed to be used in the primary or the active router, right? So now we understand how preempt works. We can move forward with this subnet, right? So here I said that I want R2 to be deactive anytime in case that he goes down and then comes back up to be deactive. So I configure a higher priority than the default, that is 100. I configure also preempt. So now let's go to R3. So interface, maybe 1 standby 1 IP, and this is going to be the IP, right? So he has a default priority that is 100. So now let's check the show stand brief. Here he is deactive, active is local, R1 to show standby brief, standby R1, and here, right, show standby brief is listening. That means that he knows the visual IP and also the MAC address, but he's not either the active or the standby. So basically that is pretty much. We saw how to configure HSRP based on VLAN and the normal one. So in case that you have any question, any doubt, please leave it in comment. Don't forget to subscribe and support this channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.